it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to the empowered harmonizers, and we're zooming in and focusing in on a great viewer question, and that was something that she has been struggling with for quite for some time, and that's just constantly seeing the world at large in a negative light. Never really expecting that things are ever going to change, work out for the better, work out for improved lifestyle. Things are never really going to get better, and it's just kind of really kind of plateaued, and her life is just really very stagnant. And I want to address this and how this gets set up, especially if you've been in a relationship with an emotional manipulator, an abuser, someone who is narcissistic, covert narcissistic, someone who is always expressing a feeling of lack. There's not enough hot water. There's not enough gas in the tank. There's, we can't, don't use that food today. That's for another time, that we're setting aside for a good time. In other words, good times can't exist today. So there's constant, beacon in the ear that's telling them, danger, danger. There's not enough, and you don't deserve to have enough. So it says this, chronic low-grade fear and trauma. And so really, once this has really been put in either by a family member or a spouse, it tends to be rehearsed. In other words, the neuroplasticity or the neural pathways are so strong there, they've recruited other neurons in the area. So like every time you get into the shower, you hear their voice, or, just not literally their voice, but hurry up and take a quick shower. You don't want to use the hot water, or you're going to be taking away from this, or eat all the food on your plate. You could be taking away from the people in China, or, don't wear those today. That's only for a special occasion. You can't have that right now. There's always, a feeling like of undermining, that there's this very low grade depression and fear and lack of support, lack of acknowledgement. So this can set that sort of that negative and poverty consciousness into play. Also, if you're in a relationship with, someone who is psychopathic or borderline, someone who, they flip the switch and they all of a sudden see everything in black or white thinking, and they're highly critical of you. There's nothing you can do right. You're taught that there's always, there's too many mistakes, and you can never really kind of develop a gratitude of just existing. You can't develop a gratitude for things as they are, because you're so imprinted, you're so made to be hypervigilant, you're so triggered with, you are not enough. You have made a mistake. You are a mistake. These messages get held within the body, and these criticisms just tend to recruit a whole host of other neurons in the brain, in that neurology within the body. So you can really have a very paralyzing fear or a paralyzing inner critic, which just resounds again and again and again, and then tends to loom over, like a blanket to the world at large. In other words, because there's always a sense of criticism, the self-doubt is so strong that you can't make decisions. You can't be decisive. You can't trust that you're making a right decision, eating the right thing, having the right type of routine, focusing on the right things. All this becomes, this whole world wash of uncertainty and fear and doubt, because you have not experienced the validation of being enough, that you are okay, you are wonderful, you are magnificent. So this feeling of dissettling or lack of safety, lack of security is a constant it's been rehearsed by your body in your mind for so long that it's becoming like the new normal. It's like constantly kind of being shell-shocked. And these, the criticism that are at the hands of these people has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with their personality disorder, their black or white thinking, their need to just launch off and scapegoat, their need to launch off and project at people. It has nothing to do with you. In fact, they've done you a disservice by creating this constant feeling of fear, anxiety, guilt, uncomfortability, self-doubt. they've not given you a service in life, they've given you a disservice in life. So until you can kind of recognize that and own that of where it all started, you can have the aha moment of going, okay, now I know why I'm so agitated to leave the house. Because I was scolded every time I stayed out too long, or I need to come in and do this, or I need to do the dish work, or I need to do the housework, or I need to just be at home now. So that you can see how these triggers and these all the neurons were recruited in your body, mind, congruency are all sort of set up on that programming. So and seeing the world at large is because you haven't had the opportunity enough to experience gratitude for just being, or even have a model or a template for how to handle disappointment, or the very fact that you have not been protected made you open to a lot of bullies. So in other words, you didn't have a filter for how to leave them alone, or walk away, or not get involved, or not, approach others in relationship with a certain, self-deprecating approach, meaning, self-annihilation, self-sacrificing, I will basically do anything for this relationship, feeling like you will lay yourself waste in order just to keep it going. So do you see how those feelings were then set up at some point, in the chain? And that is why, that there's this vulnerability to attracting these types of relationships, because you feel so criticized to the core. But yet, so it's the erection of boundaries and knowledge that these projections, the scapegoating, has nothing to do with you. It was not at the hands of you that was deserving, of that negative treatment. It was more as a function of that borderline individual, to the black and white thinking, the criticism, the need to control, the narcissist, insatiable need for power and control. So if there's anyone who, comes or could even be slightly challenging to them, those are the people who they're going to go after and lay waste. Those people who present that, that competitive person, or who could take away from them, take attention away from them, is an object of contempt, of scorn. Even if it's a family member, even if this doesn't make sense, even if this is a spouse, this shouldn't make sense. This is, you're built to have, families of functionality, and maybe these people are not quite suited for the job. Sometimes you need to admit that and then realize, hey, you know what, that was nostalgia for me. That was yesteryear. That was back in the day. But until you really kind of let that go, acknowledge it, and see, individuate from those perspectives, and get in, how they were set up, that they weren't organically created within you. They were received and processed by you in order to survive. And so, if you've experienced kind of what's known as a developmental arrest, in other words, you're quite not comfortable seeing things positively, let alone yourself positively, other relationships in a positive, feeling like there's this doom and gloom. The world at large, nobody is good, life isn't worth living, there's no beauty in life, nothing is worth, It's because those have just been, set up in your neurology and in your physiology, in your body, as well as in your emotions, to believe that. And we call those self-limiting beliefs. Self-limiting beliefs. So in other words, that is not natural. It is to undo that, though, and to say, okay, and acknowledge and see visually, auditorily, kinesthetically how that was done, and why it was done by a person who maybe wasn't equipped for the job of being a boss, who wasn't equipped for the job of being a parent, who wasn't equipped for the job of being marriage material, that you were in basically firing range of this person's projection. You happen to be there. You happen to be their child, their spouse, their neighbor, their co-worker, their colleague. This might be very prevalent in specific areas of work. And so to really, remove yourself from that and remove your feelings from those events that created it, and saying, you know what, I am me, I am free, I'm liberated from that. That was then, this is now. I'm letting that go. Thank goodness I've got no contact, and I'm not still allowing those triggers to propagate or trigger me or set up these negative feelings and emotions and these sort of circuits within me, so I can sometimes even just going no contact is enough to stop those networks from wiring and firing those cycles, those ruminations. So once you step outside, you're able to calm those down, and then you're able to then engage your prefrontal cortex, which is where your judgment and your vision for the future, you're only able to really maximize that experience of yourself in life once you're out of the fear, once you're out of the forest, once you're out of the jungle. And so you need to get rid of everything in your life which keeps those jungle fear moments in place. And if you're hanging on to it for some reason, woe is me, pity party me, that is not serving you. It's going to keep you down. It's going to keep you focusing on the negative and not believing in the positive and not being able to live by tenets of self-fulfilling beliefs, self-respect, faith in self, faith in your creative self. And that's why it's so important to engage in those activities which we discuss, which are your recovery journal, your recovery date, your recovery gift, your astramations, because now you're getting creative, you're doing something. And once by the very act of creating, you initiate and then you call up to, the creator, who is the creator in life, the big G, the big C, whatever you want to call it, the infinite intelligence, the infinite wisdom, the creator. Once you start being creative in your life and doing things that are positive, then you initially and ultimately instigate your connection to the higher source. You are then calling that into play. You're now, sending out like a little antenna where you're able to say, okay, I'm ready to hear the positive. I'm ready to tune into the positive. I'm ready to do the positive. And then you'll start to find, once you do these things, you'll find that little voice speaking. Hey, maybe I can clean up and create a new kitchen. Maybe I can redo my bathroom. Maybe I can take my dog for a walk and give him a special, bath and get things more positive around the house. Or I can get a new bird cage, or try some new bird feed, or try some different strains of birds, or learn new things to teach them, or learn about the countries where they come. You begin adding in the positive. Maybe I can buff up that car. I can go ahead and clean it and make it nice, and I can get some new tires, or something that gives you that positive experience. Something that you've been putting off. Oh, life isn't worth it. Maybe you can go pick up that part-time job, even if it's just something to earn you some additional money and it's getting you out. It's saying, I do have time. Maybe I can do it. Maybe that would be fun. What if? Begin to follow up on the what if. Wouldn't it be positive if? Wouldn't it be nice if? If I wasn't so afraid, wouldn't it be nice if? If I wasn't so held back, what if? Wouldn't it be nice if? And so you then are able to take those steps, and as soon as you begin taking action, the creator will rise to meet you. You can do it. You just need to begin to take some action steps. You need to have a little baby step. Even a little mustard seed of faith will take you in the right direction. Even if you try it, just say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that walk and think about some fun projects. I'm going to walk for 15 or 20 minutes. Get the juices going. Why not? I've got shoes. I've got the time. I can go out and do this. And you get your circulation going, and you begin to feel a little bit better. You're saying, okay, now it's not so bad. And you begin to dissolve away the negativity, so then the positive can begin to present itself, and you then begin to hear more of the solutions as you're taking part of this, and you're realizing, hey, this is part of me that's beckoning. I'm going to support myself. I'm going to protect myself, though. Support and protect. So I'm very consciously aware of where I'm going and what I'm doing, but I'm creating a better future for myself just by taking the action steps and really perking up my attitude. And because the physiology does reflect in the mindset. So if you're always sitting around, shoulder slumped over, and if you're reinforcing the negative feelings. So you need to stand up straight. You need to stretch out. You need to go stretch your get into that victory pose. Hold your shoulders high. Begin to take that nice, delicious walk where you're just able to go out and about and stretch your legs. And say, that was nice. And then you begin to see you have the creative power. And once you put the two and two together, you'll see a ton of results taking place in your life. You just have to do it in order to feel it. And then feel it to think it. And then you create a positive cycle again. You got this. Give it a try. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.